And welcome in, everybody, to your Utah Jazz postgame report here on the Jazz Huddle. Again, we really appreciate everybody stopping in. We are live streaming right now, so make sure if you haven't already, come in and check out our live streams. But for everybody who's in the chat right now, what is going on? We just had a fantastic live stream for the game against the Heat. The Jazz came out on top 112-94. Just an overall fantastic game. The Jazz now 22-5, just blowing out teams. But one thing that I did notice tonight was the threes. They just weren't falling for the Jazz in a lot of situations, and that's kind of tough because that's kind of what our bread and butter is. That's what the Jazz run on, and that kind of came with we were not exactly moving the ball to start off, and that was really tough for the Jazz because if we don't do that, we're going to end up with a three-point shooting night like this one. We're still going to take the same amount of threes. The amount that we make is going to be kind of screwed. So we had 12 for 46 from three-point range, and here's what that's going to tell you. The Jazz don't even have to make threes to be able to really compete against a lot of teams. And I mean, it just goes to show that the Jazz are very versatile. They have a lot of ways that they can score. Of course, the main one going to be shooting threes, but if that's not going to fall, they're going to be able to find other outlets of scoring. And we saw that a lot tonight. We saw Georges Niang come in, had some great minutes off the bench. We saw Jordan Clarkson have a pretty slow start right at that first bit, and he didn't really get going all game. Still finished with 11 points on 4 for 15 shooting. It was 2 for 9 from the three-point range. But overall, just a great game for the Jazz. You look at Donovan Mitchell, 26 points, 9 for 21 on field goals, 3 for 12 shooting. Again, had 2 assists. So not as much ball movement, and it just kind of goes to show only 26 assists for the Jazz, but most of those came on inside buckets. But one thing that I want to do is go inside at the beginning of games. You got to be able to penetrate and move the ball outside. If the Jazz can really start doing that at the beginning of games, because we've had issues starting it up, you got to be able to start quick and start getting into some rhythm offensively. But if we don't penetrate and get those kick out opportunities, it's going to be kind of close. And thank you to all the 130 people in here. I always got you, Vinny Mac. I appreciate you being in here. But when you really look at it, the Jazz just had a fantastic game. And I think his name is Georges. If it's not Georges, then I'm wrong. But I will check on that after the game. But anyway, we had Rudy Gobert had 16 points, also had 12 rebounds. A good game for him. He was really crashing the boards. But we also saw a little bit of indecisiveness early in that game. So that was kind of tough for the Jazz to start. They kind of opened that rebounding battle up a little bit. They finished with 48 in that category, and the Heat finished with 43. But really up and down in this game, you just had the Heat really slow down in the third quarter. They scored 21 points in both the first and second quarter, but when it came time for that third quarter, they were just not ready coming out of halftime. 15 points as opposed to the Jazz's 31 points. That really threw it off. And Jem, I will check on Bogdanovich right after I'm finished filming this. But overall for the Jazz, you just saw really great minutes out of everybody. They really locked down Jimmy Butler, which was fantastic. We've seen him do that all year, just really locking up the stars. They're getting into their faces, especially Royce O'Neal just playing some fantastic defense overall. And it's just game in, game out. The Jazz are just coming in and dominating. And one of the things that's coming through is just the ball movement is fantastic at times in games. And that's something that you're really going to want to keep an eye on for the Jazz. Because, again, they do not have their primary distributor or ball handler in Mike Conley. So when he comes back, and of course they're going to not rush him because they don't want to mess up that hamstring, because the hamstring is, again, one of the most important things in your body in basketball. You just have to be careful. But if they are putting up numbers like this and shooting terrible from three-pointers, but from a three-point perspective, but when you look at it, the Jazz still shot pretty well from the floor today, 39 for 85, 45.9% from the floor. But it's just up and down. This roster is looking fantastic. They're all bonding. They are just they have a synergy with one another that is really carrying them to this wins, and they came out 94 to 112 against this Heat team, who's not a bad team whatsoever. I don't really mind the Heat at all, and I think that they have a chance to get a little bit of work done in the playoffs. But, you know, you just see the Jazz playing really well. And I just don't know where to leverage my expectations for them, because I can see them going to the Western Conference Finals, right? And I know a lot of you in chat have said that, depending on what team you like, you've said that you can see them going even further than that to the finals. I don't know where to place them, because they're an interesting team where I hope that they're not a regular season big time great team, then they go into the playoffs and they're a first round exit. I don't think that that's even possible, but I could be proven wrong. Just looking at the team, they just have a fantastic synergy. They play well together, they move the ball, they like one another, and that's really important if you want to have a team that can do a lot in the playoffs. But tonight was a big thing for me, because it showed that even through adversity, this team is still finding a way to come out and play good basketball, which is something that a lot of other teams that they're just not going to have the ability to do. And they did have to come back from a little bit of a drought in that first quarter. 18-21 was the scoring distribution in that quarter. Miami led them by 3 at the end of that quarter, and you had to stick with it. They did, and they came out and they just kept playing. If you keep playing, you're going to get looks that you need. You're going to be able to go inside. You're going to be able to score. But they really, really opened that game up in the third quarter, and that was just due to a fantastic defensive performance. And if you play defense, it's going to translate to offense no matter what. But overall, I mean, just a fantastic game. And even if you're not hitting threes, the Heat also hit 12 threes, which was good for the Jazz, because if they hit more, then we might have been screwed. But they were having a tough time from out there as well. Just good minutes. And also Mie Oni, talk about an aggressive player. He just went out and played his heart out the whole time, and that's something that you do when you're a player who isn't guaranteed who he's just not guaranteed very many minutes in the NBA. So if he comes out and makes plays like that, where he's getting in, he's going down and dirty, he's getting balls that a lot of other players wouldn't be really willing to get. I mean, that's just fantastic for the Jazz. That's what you want to see out of a guy in his second year in the league. And nice to hear that losing Conley is something we can handle, but Bogey is out. Yes, you are totally right. It is a struggle. It is a struggle for the Jazz, but they are kind of playing through adversity right now, but they did a good job. And that is going to wrap it up for me here on the Postgame Report. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Make sure, if you're just new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. The Jazz move up to 22-5, top in the Western Conference. You got to love the basketball we're seeing right now from the Jazz. Thanks, everybody.